The Human Loop podcast, powered by Ethereum. Hey, and welcome to this episode of the Human Loop podcast. It's a weekly loop episode this week, and it's really well timed because Gallup have just released the Gallup State of the Workplace for 2026. And I've got my report open up on my screen here. And I've done a bit of analysis of it. And I thought it was really good timing to share this with you as we come into the second quarter of 2026. And the 5 talking points, effectively that it's getting worse. So I've talked about the Gallup report in 2025, and it really highlighted disengagement within employees and an overwhelm for managers. And what seems to be happening is we're not paying attention as leaders. We're not paying attention to what's going on in our workforces. And it's having a massive impact on productivity, well-being. That's trickling down to the bottom line. And businesses' margins are shrinking. They are hemorrhaging money when it comes to attrition and coasting and disengagement. And it feels like nobody's really listening, but they're feeling the pains within their businesses. So I've spent a lot of time analysing what the workplace report shows and trying to make sense of some of the biggest areas. So I'm gonna share some of these with you in this episode. The first big headline is this $10 trillion problem that nobody's solving. So global employee disengagement cost the world roughly $10 trillion in lost productivity last year. That is madness. That's 9% of global GDP. And here's the kicker. Engagement hit its lowest point last year since 2020. So it's dropped for 2 consecutive years for the first time ever. Never in the whole period that Gallup has been doing all of the research they've done on global workplaces, never had it dropped for 2 consecutive years. And if you think this isn't happening in my organization, then I think you need to think again, because what it shows is that actually only 20% of employees globally are engaged. Only 20% of your workforce are engaged. What does engaged mean? It means that they believe they are doing meaningful work that matters, and their productivity per head is a place where it's going to enable your business to thrive. So this isn't a talent shortage, it's a leadership crisis. There's a leadership crisis going on, and that takes me to my second point, which is managers are burning out. The data is there. It's showing us that team leaders, middle managers, the engine room, the workhorses of your business are burning out. And it seems that nobody's really noticed until now. And it's the most underreported story in the report. So since 2022, manager engagement has collapsed by 9 percentage points. Manager engagement has collapsed by 9 percentage points. It's dropped from 31% to just 22%. Now, there used to be this engagement premium that business leaders, we'd all talk about, that our managers are the most engaged members of our workforces because they've got that notoriety, they know a bit more about what's going on, they've got more experience maybe in our business, but that's gone. Managers are now only as engaged as the people they lead, or only as disengaged as the people they lead. So the role of being a manager has got harder, and support hasn't kept up. Why has it got harder? Well, the world's got faster. We're asking a lot more of our managers. There are thinner layers of management now. So managers are generally an individual contributor, as well as being responsible for the well-being, the performance, and enabling the development of their teams. And what it shows is, these are strong words, but Gallup show that organizations are sleepwalking into what they're calling a talent time bomb. That businesses who aren't thinking about how they can look to reverse this and reverse it fast are going to come into a talent problem. All right, they're going to come into a talent problem. The third bit is that AI is failing at an organizational level. So AI are failing and managers are the missing link. So $40 billion was invested in AI enterprise investments last year in 2025. 95% of organizations have seen zero measurable impact on their profits. So it hasn't trickled down. Only 5% of organizations can say that their AI projects have trickled down to profitability. That's data from MIT. So throw that data together with data from Gallup. And Gallup's own data says only 12% of employees in AI implementing organizations strongly agree that AI has transformed how work gets done. But, and this is the big one, employees whose managers actively champion AI are 8.7 times more likely to say that it transforms their work. So technology isn't the constraint, all right? We know businesses, I know businesses that are signing up for full Claude licenses for everyone, Copilot for everyone, etc. The investment is happening. What isn't happening is the skill level of the managers and the support for the managers to be able to implement these investments better and to lead the charge. Why aren't they doing that? We've just talked about how disengaged they are. They're disengaged because everything is getting thrown at them and they're not getting any support or limited support on this. And to give you a candid example, I was speaking to a chief people officer just last week who said to me, Ben, there is no way right now I am going to be investing £500 to £1,000 a year on developing the leaders in our business. And yet that business is leaning so hard into increasing productivity per head that it's scary. They need to do that to achieve a valuation they need to achieve for a deal. But the short-sightedness is that the messaging that was coming to me was, we're going to try and squeeze that from somewhere, but we're not going to invest in our managers, which we know are the biggest levers to create that productivity per head, that engagement and that performance. The fourth point that came out was leaders are more successful and more miserable. So it's a bit of a counterintuitive one that's worth unpacking for sure. Leaders, so like director level, VP levels within organizations, report higher engagement and well-being scores than managers and their employees, but they're also substantially more likely to experience stress, anger, sadness, and loneliness. It is tough at the top right now. Now, if the leadership layer in your organization are more stressed, more angry, sadder, and more lonely, how then are they going to be acting in terms of leading their management team? And how much stress is coming down on that team leader, that manager level, that's then cascading down onto employees. So there's something going on at the top tier within our organizations that we need to think about as well. But it's not all doom and gloom. The last bit I'm going to end with is that best practice organizations are proof that it doesn't have to be this way. There are a small group of organizations where Gallup found 79% of managers in those organizations are engaged. That's nearly quadruple the global average. And the global average is 22%. So you've got this massive difference, this gap, this huge gap between knowing and doing within organizations. And these aren't unicorns. Actually, when you look at the research, they exist in all regions and all industries. But what separates them is this. They treat employee engagement as a long-term business strategy that lives and breathes every single day. It's not an annual or quarterly pulse survey. It's about real-time engagement and real-time feedback. And those businesses are the ones where we're seeing massive increases in talent density. And why is that important? Well, if you've got a business where you've got record low levels of coasting and managers that are overwhelmed, managers that have record levels of disengagement, you've got coasting in your organization, you've got people looking over their shoulder, where's better to go, and then your competitor are one of those businesses where managers are 79% engaged and employees are way more engaged, guess where your talent is going? It's gonna go to those companies that are investing in engagement at the individual level and at the manager level as a long-term strategy for growth. And that's these super talent dense businesses that are beginning to pull away from everyone else. So what's the key messaging from the report? Key messaging from the report is, if you're a business leader, you need to act. You need to think about, as well as the AI agenda and margins and what's going on geopolitically, the call to action is super clear. The call to action is you need to lean into the human capital, the human leverage within your organization as a tool to land your AI strategy and the competitive advantage that you're looking to build through your AI strategy. Likely that's what you're looking at. But what you can't forget and you can't neglect is the human element. Because if you don't, it's going to turn around and bite you in the arse. And that's going to happen this year. It's definitely going to happen next year. Because if Gallup release the 2027 State of the Workplace and your business is one of those that is continuing to see a drop in engagement, you're going to be hemorrhaging money, you're going to be hemorrhaging talent, and you're going to find yourself too far behind your competitors to catch up. I hope this has been helpful. Please do get in touch for any questions you've got around engagement, around management development. I'd love to pick up the conversation with you and talk a bit more about how this might be happening in your organization, but also how you're bucking the trend as well. Thank you very much for tuning in to this weekly loop, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.